Welcome back to the Exit Teams podcast, where business owners and their advisors get real practical insight on how to build a team of advisors, maximize value, and exit on their own terms. I'm your host, Bob Tankesley, author of Exit Teams: Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price. You can find that book and all kinds of content at exitteams.com. You can buy that book on Amazon. Whether you're years away from selling or thinking about an exit now, this episode will be packed with must-know tips to help you take advantage of opportunities while avoiding costly mistakes. Today, I'm joined by an expert in the world of business communication, my friend David Doerrier. David is the founder of Present Your Way to Success and a communications strategist with more than 30 years of experience helping professionals communicate with greater clarity, confidence, and impact. A retired U.S. Air Force veteran, trainer, broadcaster, and speaker coach, David works with business owners, executives, attorneys, and technical experts to turn knowledge into understanding, develop future leaders, and reduce organizational dependence on any one individual. His belief is simple: communication isn't just a presentation skill, it's a business asset that directly impacts trust, leadership, scalability, and ultimately company value. Hey, David, welcome to the show. Really glad you could be on sharing your 30 years of communication expertise. I didn't realize you had been at it for that long.
Well, I guess if we wanted to, we could say it's closer to 35 now. So yes,
Okay.
yeah, 30 something years. Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I had to have you on because almost every business owner out there who needs to communicate well, and even the advisors to business owners, everyone should be listening carefully. So let's dive in. Hey, David, let's start off with this. We talk a lot about exit here on the show, and so that'll kind of find its way into the conversation we had. But right off the top, I know that most owners who own companies, they think about communication as they don't, rather they don't think of communication as an asset, but you believe they should. Why should they?
Well, excellent question right out of the gate. Thanks, Bob. Why should they think of communication as an asset?
Yep.
There are many reasons. Let's start with one is internal communication. If you're able to eliminate any distractions, any barriers within your internal team, that's one of many things that's necessary to keep people around. If if there's no friction internally, then that's going to translate into increased connection with external folks. I remember it was the company that had all the pots and pans and so on. They have a place over here in Alpharetta. Oh, why am I? Anyway, I'll think of it probably at 3 o'clock in the morning. But the reason I bring these folks up is they focused very much on the keeping the employees happy. And when I say happy, making sure they have all of their needs met, they're able to communicate to each other effectively. They have all of the assets that they need, and they found that the happier that they're able to keep their internal customers, that's going to translate in Pottery Barn. That's what it was, Pottery
There it
Barn.
is.
And,
You
and
didn't
so
have to wait till 3 a.m. You
didn't
nailed
have to
it.
wait till 3 a.m. And so that translated into happier employees, better communicated to employees, because one of the things to be happy is you got to have that communication. You have to have that trust with your employees, employer, and so on. And if you're able to have that, that's going to translate into better connections with external, bring in more money. There's many things that make a business successful, but as you said, this is the one area that gets missed the most. And I think it's because I can talk. I went to school to learn this. You went to school to learn your profession. You worked in your profession as a professional for X number of years. I should be able to just get up and just talk and tell this audience what they need to know. That's the problem.
So could it come down to maybe a lack of structure, a lack of repetition, a lack of training? Yeah.
Yes, yes, and yes. My one of my current clients, an executive in a international company, he mentions he's worked to be a good salesperson. He's worked to be a good executive. He's worked to be a good golfer, but he's never worked on and learning that these basic communication skills of how do you structure a presentation. It's more than just working through nerves. People think as a public speaking coach, all I do is help people with nerves. So this way they can take what they already have, they can go up on stage and they can spit it out well enough that they stay alive at the end. Well, that's one part of what I do, but I start with the structure. If you're prepared before you go up on that stage, you know what you're going to talk about, and it's coming from your heart, it's so much easier to talk about.
What is that phrase, that saying? There are few things, there are very few things more scary than public speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld has used the joke. I'll steal it from him is that number one fear is speaking in public. Number two is dying. So
Yeah.
that means we'd rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy.
As far as I know, speaking in public doesn't cause the second one. So as long as you beat that, you're good in life.
Some people think it's going to cause the second one.
Right. So again, we talk a lot about exit here on the show. I'm sure you've noticed either anecdotally or directly how communication impacts the value of a business.
Yeah. Yes, that was the question. Yes. Have I seen that?
Yeah.
Well, firsthand, no, because I'm not really deep into exit planning like you, but where I do see it is a current client. They are an MSP. I've been working with them for a couple of years to specifically help they're not sales folks. They are IT folks that meet with their external customers for a business meeting once a year. And they were finding that naturally subject matter experts have a habit of just data, just
Yeah.
sending out data. How's this? How's that? And talking too much and not asking enough questions.
Yep.
So I started working with them a couple of years ago. And first, getting that change in the mindset, getting people to understand the value of asking more questions versus talking. And now that I've been with them three times, I can see and they can see internally the that people are signing up for new products, people are extending, people are not leaving their organization, the communication is improving between internal and external. We've now worked on their internal communication to break down barriers there. So I can only guess that if that continues, that's going to increase the business. It's they want to be different than the other guy. The other guys go out and just throw out data. They want to have a more relationship. So I feel can good communication affect at the end of the day? You betcha.
Yeah. I would love to do an experiment. I'm just thinking out loud here how you and I could approach a client or a prospect and say, hey, if you don't train your technical people or your salespeople to communicate well, this is what one path to value looks like. And you can model out the financial statements, the P&L and L and the balance sheet and some of the other moving parts that make evaluation work. Or with David's help in getting everybody on the same page, having great internal communication and that leading to great external communication with clients and customers, that puts you on a different valuation path. This is what your balance sheet and your P&L and your other factors that create a valuation look like. That would be kind of an unfair way of showing how valuable proper communication can be.
And that is an interesting. I like that, and you may find that that is one of the. I'm not saying this is the fix all. There may
Yeah.
be other issues within the organization that are discovered during that discovery process, such as we don't have the right equipment, things are breaking down, software, we're not trained properly. A lot of that stuff can bubble to the surface. And but certainly, yeah, that would be an interesting. I'd love to be involved in that.
Yeah.
And if it's communication, that could be the cheapest thing to get you from here. Because I'm not saying it, it could be expensive depending on how many people you have, but it's a lot cheaper. I'm sure you're going to get 3 times the value from it on the other end.
Yeah. Let's talk about growing companies real quick. What communication issues do you see most often in companies that are growing rapidly? Maybe probably faster than their peers are.
I'd say that the biggest is, and this is not just with growing companies, with many companies, assumptions. People assuming, oh,
Mm.
they should already know that. Oh, yeah, he's been here long enough. He should know that. He should know this. He should know the values of the company. He should know our mission statement. He should know what's expected. That's probably the biggest, are the assumptions.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mhm.
It's hitting me repeatedly already. I think we're only about 5 minutes into this podcast, but it has hit me multiple times already, and that is uh, people just well, people assume, to stick with your point you just made, that I talk a lot. I'm a normal human. I know how to use the English language. I know how to talk, but unless there's a framework, unless there's a purpose and a step-by-step process mixed with some creativity, then you might often miss the point, the total point of communicating. And that has all kinds of ramifications. So doing it systematically, you're making me think of, how I might even talk to my kids or people in a non-business setting. Just start little practices, practiced daily,
Mhm.
getting to some better goal of communicating well.
Yes. So I like what you said. Was there a question in there?
Nope, just an observation that
Okay.
already in a brief period of time, it's already
Hmm.
I've already had the insight as we try to bring here on the show that yeah, I'm going to be more intentional about my communication style. And folks, by the way, in full disclosure, David helped me a few months ago in preparation for a project.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes. And we had a great time. We went through
Yep.
a number of things, and I love where we ended up. And your wife was involved with us through those trainings as well. And
Yep.
I'd be curious to hear from her what she took away and what she's using today.
She may want me to to re-engage you and get better at communicating. We'll put
Yeah.
that aside for now.
Okay.
Um, why do you think, let's step back a little bit. What is a question I like to commonly ask my guests here on the show, but why do you think businesses become overly dependent on the founders themselves?
Hmm. Well, it could be that the founder has all the answers. The
Yeah,
founder, he's expected to have all the answers. He's the leader. Maybe the founder has his or her hands deep into everything that goes on, so everything has to go through. There isn't enough delegation that's going on. And these are all things that train the staff. If they're trained to everything, in that way, then those could be some that's contributing to some of the roadblocks.
yeah, yeah. I guess a follow-up question would be something like, what role communication plays in this area of specialty that you have in reducing that founder dependency. I think I have some ideas, but what would you say? How could founders communicate their role better? How could they communicate to people who work for them um, on areas of responsibility that they could take away from the founder? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a great question. My first response is, and this not only is true for the founder, all leaders, salespeople, is to ask more questions, do less talking and asking more questions. My tagline is talking and telling, ain't training or selling. So I think that let's focus on the founder. And if the founder is the type of person that just spits out data, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening now, and if our employees, if our thoughts and ideas are not able to be contributed to this, then again, that's going to cause that wall. The the founder they have to come to that conclusion on their own. What I have found that, and goes through all a lot speakers. We were talking about this earlier. I've been to college. I've owned this business for so many years. I learn this way. I communicate this way. I listen this way. So everybody else is exactly the same. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying. I can follow my path of this discussion, no matter how convoluted it is, but not taking into consideration your audience. Who are they? What is their current knowledge level of what you're talking about?
Last
So,
time I checked, owners, like everybody else, two ears, one mouth. Maybe that should be the ratio of listening versus talking.
exactly. But they've got noise coming out of every hole.
Yeah. Hey, let's shift a little bit here to leadership and knowledge transfer. I also asked this question, but I'm sure you've got a strong take on it. I asked this question of all my guests: why does so much valuable knowledge remain trapped inside the owner's head? And we're kind of getting into the psychology of it, but and you kind of just touched on it uh,
Mm,
a minute or so ago. But there it sits in the owner's mind, and the buyer really wishes it was documented, wish that knowledge were turned into policies and procedures, wish that more people inside the company's organization, the org chart had more of that knowledge that the owner had and has in their head.
yeah. So what I understand you're asking is the owner has got all of this stuff in their head.
Yeah.
And did you say a new owner has taken over, but the old owner has left with all that knowledge?
That's the usual scenario,
Yeah.
right? Very little
So,
of it has been documented, and it can result in a significant loss in value
to the new owner.
to the new owner.
Right. So my first thing, certainly there are things that could have been done to fix that, but I'm curious, I put some of the blame on the person who bought it because they weren't, I would think that would be their due diligence to extract that before they purchased it. So now it comes back to communication and anybody else that was involved in the sale of this thing, I guess. But it comes back to eliminating that fear. Maybe this owner just had a presence to them. Well, I don't want to ask him that question. I don't want to, he might think I'm stupid asking these
Yeah.
stupid questions. Maybe there's a fear that's going on there. Or maybe they tried and they asked the founder, well, how do you do this? That's easy. All you do is bing, dang, ding, dam, and then you're done with it. That's all you got to do. Stop asking me stupid questions. What
Aren't you
needs to
long enough?
happen?
Haven't you figured it out by now?
Exactly, exactly. You don't need to worry about that. They're going to stick around forever. So yeah, there's got to be that communication. Yeah, and if you don't have that, then run away.
Yeah. That's a good point. I had not considered that before. You'd be surprised, though, how often, especially on smaller deals, how often buyers have happy years about the business. They believe they can take it over and replace the owner, what the owner is doing pretty quickly.
Hmm.
So that leads to, owners needing to share knowledge before they're ready to exit. And if the owner will allow it, build up and create stronger future leaders. So there's got to be some communication habits in there, right? That the owner could be exhibiting themselves or asking of their employees that creates those strong future leaders.
Yeah. So when it comes to leadership training, this is a great question. It for me as a leadership coach is that it's got to come from the top. The top has got to be demonstrating. Why should I? I saw it a lot of when I was in corporate, especially folks were coming to our leadership. Mid managers were coming to our leadership. We had already worked with the upper leaders. Mid managers were coming to us, and many of them saying, "Well, why do I have to learn this? My manager isn't demonstrating this." And then you ask them,
Oh,
"Well, are you here?" "Oh, I'm here for the lunch. I heard you guys got the best lunch in town." So you got to have that internal motivation. It can't be just words on a wall. This is our mission statement. I worked in a place like that. This is our mission statement, but they didn't follow it. They didn't live by it.
yeah,
It's just the words painted on a wall. So you asked, it's got to come from the top. They got to buy in. They got to demonstrate it. They've got to find ways of sustaining it. I've seen many times people come to the class, rah, 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 here's some great information. Boy, did I have a great time in there, and I shared and I learned, and slowly go back to the old habits. It's so
yeah,
easy. It's the same thing with speaking. It's so safe for me to just stay where I am and continue to speak like I am right now. If I have to do the stuff David is teaching me to do, I got to do, I got to use new muscles. That's scary stuff. So they got to understand the value. They got to understand, why are we doing this? Why is this important?
yeah. So true. So true. From the top. Owners, if you're listening, it starts with you.
Yeah.
David, you talk about the expert's curse.
Mm.
Sometimes I've heard you mention about that, and you work a lot with subject matter experts. I used to consider myself, well, I still do, but I used to consider myself a great technician, and everybody, will know what how good I am because I've got pieces of paper on the wall and this kind of experience. But great communication is critical in getting those ideas across and those points of expertise to land correctly. How do experts often struggle to communicate clearly?
Great question. That, like you said, that's the curse of being that subject matter expert.
Yeah,
You're an expert. I'm an expert. Folks that are listening to this, each one of us is an expert. And we love to share if what we do, how we do it. I think of myself at a networking event and getting up and doing my 60-second elevator pitch, or maybe my 5 or 7 minute presentation at a BNI or something like that, provisors. And it's just getting up and just talking about, who am I, what do I do, and there's no structure to it. There's nothing engaging in the beginning. There's no transitions. It's just, you start at A and you go all the way to Z with no stops in between, and you get to the end of it, and the person thinks, "Phew, I made it. 5 minutes. Whoo, I got it all in there."
and the audience is breathing a sigh of relief that it's over.
It's over because I tuned out a while ago. I'm eating my biscuit muffin or something. I'm totally involved in something else. So it's a structure. Being
Yeah,
an expert, yes, it is great. You want to have all that knowledge. The other thing, along one is experts being very willing to share all of it, vomiting it. The other problem is them not thinking about their audience. What
yeah.
does their audience need? What does the audience need versus what does the speaker feel the audience needs?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It requires that extra level of thought that a lot of experts really don't want to go through.
Mhm.
Uh, guil Formerly guilty as charged. That was me
Mhm.
years ago. I thought I'm going to show people in the next 10 minutes just how much is packed in between these two ears, and I hope they're ready to hold on and
Hold on
drink
tight.
drink from a fire hose.
Yeah, we're in for a bumpy ride.
So now that I'm a leader, I think differently. I still have complex ideas, but how do I communicate those better without oversimplifying them? That's the other side of this coin is
Yeah. Well,
making sure that who I'm speaking to receives enough, not too much as we just talked about, but not too little either.
right. So the first part of that is knowing your audience. So this is a situation in all speaking situations. The number one rule of speaking, presenting, training, mentoring, whatever it is you got to know your audience.
Mm.
So here I like to use I'll use a graph as an example. You are no, I'm going to use a pool that goes from 1 foot all the way to 10 feet.
Got the visual locked in.
In this pool, you are an expert. You're down there at the 10-foot level, and you can safely swim. You can safely have fun down there at the 10-foot level because you are an expert in what you're going to talk about. Now, think about your audience. Where are they at in that swimming pool based on their knowledge of what you're going to talk about? 9 times out of 10, when I ask this question, people are telling me, well, my audience is down there at 3 and 4 feet. Well, if you go into that presentation talking to them as if they were all equals to you at 10 feet, guess what's happening? These folks are being dragged down there to the deep end of the pool and they're drowning in
Yeah.
all of this information.
So should there be some good questioning up front, maybe surveys of the audience, find out in, a short period of time and at a high level where everybody's understanding is on
Yeah.
what you're about to present on?
So great question. Great. Yes. So there are a couple of ways of doing that. One is if there's an event organizer of some sort, you could ask them. If you know who the people are, then certainly you can gauge what their current knowledge is. Like if you're part of a networking group and you know the folks.
Yep.
Now, if you go in there and you know nothing about your audience, other than whoever has asked you to speak about this topic, then I would say you open with questions. Who here uses email? How many people use the spell check in the email? It could be simple questions
Yeah.
to kind of start to gauge. I ask questions about email. I should have said this, that the question should be relevant to what
Mm.
you're going to teach about. So if I'm asking questions about email, but I'm going to be talking about brain surgery, that may not be relevant at the time. But the questions up front can also serve another purpose. Those questions up front can help me gauge my audience, assess my audience, understand where I need to position myself in the pool so I can then gently bring the folks down to a deeper level in the
Yep.
pool. The other is that many people tell me that the time they get most nervous in front of a group is those first couple of minutes. So by opening up with questions, this kind of
I've
takes it
noticed,
off of you. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I've noticed that as well. If I can have good structure for the first couple of minutes, if I can have, a set of notes maybe outlined to refer to, if the first couple of minutes go well, boy, the chance of the rest of it going well are improving.
Yeah, yeah. It's I've not looked at it that way, but you've brought something up that if I go into this thing all wobbly right from the very beginning, maybe that's going to throw me off enough that I never able to get back on track.
Yeah.
But if you can come up and you can take control immediately of yourself and your audience, then that's going to help make that transition a lot easier. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. See, I learn something every day too.
Experts like facts and figures and data and charts, but I don't suffer from this as much as I used to years and years ago. But for those that might be listening who consider themselves experts, they just haven't, started or aren't very far down the path. of improving their communication. Why do facts alone rarely change behavior? I think a lot of people need to hear this.
Yes. Facts, facts, I think if I get this right, facts don't sell, feelings sell, or something along those lines. Now, giving
I think is,
facts,
is the saying something like feeling sells, but facts justify. In this era of being able to research everything quickly, sometimes
yeah,
um, sometimes that's not what makes the sale. It's how somebody feels about it.
exactly. So having statistics, having data, having facts, things supporting your product and all of these acknowledgments and this is how many people have benefited from this and have survived from this or whatever this thing is, all of that data is great, but it's the audience is thinking, well, why should I care? Why should I care? You're just telling me data. You need to buy this because of this. You need to get it because of this. Everybody's getting it because of this, and because of this, and because of that. Okay, great, but how does it help me? How does it help my thing? And I need to feel it. I need to really. Everybody's a. I also let me put a big asterisk here, and that is that everybody is going to react differently to the way that you are selling. So if somebody is selling that way with data, 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 they may be doing a good job because maybe they're selling to the right kind of people.
Yeah,
The,
who
the,
appreciate that and or are hungry for more data. Yeah,
exactly. And whereas me, my buying style is, yeah, I need data, but I also need to feel it. I need to feel I want to talk to someone who bought this car recently and I want to hear from them and understand how are you liking this thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the more complex too, we probably opens up um, the need for that second level of understanding. The more complex
Hmm.
uh, a topic or product or service is.
Yeah. So if I understand it's that it's a much more complex to get your buyer to that level of understanding. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, right.
Right. Yes. So let's talk about that. Yes. But the only way you're going to get there is asking more questions. You got to get them to feel it. You can't tell them how to feel. You got to get them. Well, how would you feel if you were in that situation, Bob? How would you handle your family if you found yourself in that situation? What do you think your mother's going to do? What do you think your father's going to do? Bringing up that those pain points at first. And I've had some people say, "Well, I don't like to sell based on pain." Well, you got to find your own way. At the end of the day, where you're trying to get to is you got to get your prospect to feel it. They've
Yeah.
got to see the value. They've got to understand the value. So whatever path you want to get to use to get them there, certainly pain and pleasure. Here's what's going to happen if you don't do anything. Asking the question, well, what happens if you don't do nothing? What happens if you do nothing? Okay, then what do you think it looks like 5 years down the road? Well, guess what? I can fix that for you.
I often ask owners, whereas I used to come out, guns blazing with talking about valuation and, facts about how the market is behaving for their business. Now I ask a very open-ended question. And I think with as much time as I give them, the owner will fill that time with a response to that question. The question is, where's this going?
Hmm.
Oh, I've gotten great. I've helped them understand their business better, not just me getting a quick primer on their company, but I've had owners come back and tell me nobody's ever asked me that question before. I appreciate that,
Hmm. Yeah,
and a lot.
yeah,
Invariably, there's a lot of emotion that comes out in their response.
yes. So that brings me to something based on what you've just said and something we mentioned earlier. When it comes to the basic communication, it comes down to three things. Tell them what you're going to
Ah,
tell them, and
yeah.
then tell them what you told them. So what you just said, like, where are we going with this? Correct?
Yes.
And you're talking about that right up front. That's one of the things that gets missed most often. Sales people, trainers, you got your audience, we got everybody in the room. Great. We just dove into the deep end of the pool. Hold on, folks. Versus creating an introduction. Why are we here? What's the purpose? What's the value? How much do you know already? This could be about the product. You're coming in to look at a car. Well, why are you looking at this car? What is it about this car? What research have you done to buy this car? Or wanting to buy, asking questions more than talking. That's what kills a sale is sometimes people, I've heard this, that they over talked. They lost the sale because they talked too much.
Guilty. Guilty as charged years ago. Yep. I was a newly minted whatever I was doing at the time. I'm going to show people and impress them. And yeah, I was under 35 or 40. And so I felt like I had to because I didn't have as much experience as I wanted. But uh,
I'm sure.
you lose enough at bats, you lose enough business, and that sting makes you change a little bit.
Oh, I've done it too. Yep. Great. Great questions.
Yeah. Well, here's a topic. Let's talk about building a business that can thrive without the owner.
Hmm.
Um, I see it too often. Way too many businesses are way too owner centric, and the buyers pick up on this. They usually dig in hard. They try to uncover it the first two or three conversations. But let's turn inward for just a minute. Um, if a buyer sat in on a leadership meeting or a series of leadership meetings in that company for 30 days, how could they learn more about the business? What kinds of things do you think they would learn about the business? They haven't bought it yet, but they're able to sit in on these meetings and it's still under the owner seller's control. What kinds of things will they pick up on?
Yeah. So let's start with the downside or the negative, and that would be that in that meeting, there's only one person talking, and that's the leader. There's no, there's no other person talking other than the leader. Now, let me also say here that the caveat is it also depends on what the meeting is. Maybe it's an emergency meeting, and at this point, we can only have the leader talk at this point. But if it's a weekly staff meeting and it's the objective is to help the business, expand the business, and whatever else to do with the business, but the owner is the only person talking, then that would be a red flag for me.
Yeah.
Now, on the
I,
opposites, yeah,
and
go
me as
ahead.
well. I see it way too often. The force of the leader is in the room, unmistakable, and the
Right.
contribution level is a lot less than it could have been otherwise.
Yep. And maybe in a way, because there is that new face that's in the room observing, now they feel like they've got to really show what they know at this point, and they've got to take control and show how powerful I am, and hurrah, hurrah. So there could be some of that additional, um, whatever you want to call it, that's part of this as well. So if that continues, certainly keeping an eye on that. And just the opposite, if I go in there and I see there's a lot of collaboration, there's people that have been here for years and people are contributing, they're throwing the craziest ideas in the middle of the table just to see what can blossom from all of that crap that they throw in the middle. That is certainly a very different scenario.
I gotta ask this: is good communication contagious?
I would say so. But yes, and along with the good communication is also creating a safe place where other people can communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it also has to have that safe place where I feel that it's okay to ask a question, even though inside my head I feel like, well, everybody's going to think I'm stupid to ask that question. Everybody's going to think, you should already know that. But if I feel safe, then yeah.
So, what communication habits can create confidence in a management team?
Listening, asking questions,
There it
making
is again,
sure.
folks. Two ears, one mouth.
Yeah, listening, asking questions of understanding other people's listening and communication styles. I Part of my practice is the DISC assessment. Are you familiar with DISC?
I am.
DISC?
Yes.
So this is
And for our
something.
for our audience, you have
Go ahead.
a summary of that assessment?
DISC assessment, all of us, we have our own unique way of communicating. We have our own unique way of hearing, even if we're hearing the same thing. Like, think about we as kids when we played the old telephone game and you say one word over here and then it gets passed all the way down to the last person in the line. And by the time it gets to the end, they're reciting the Gettysburg Address or something. It's we all hear differently. We all have our unique communication style. So one of the things that's important for all internal folks is number one, understanding what is my unique communication style. My style, for those folks in the audience that understand DISC, I'm a very high C. C is very calculated and very much in my head. It's very analytical, plans, structures. That's why I've been so good at what I do here because I see these plans, I see these structures when putting speeches together and feel the emotion that's in there. Um, so where was I going with this? So, understanding those different communication styles. So whether you use DISC or whatever you use is understanding how best to communicate or speak to to your listeners' hearing.
Yeah.
And one example of this, I'm going to talk about a D personality. D is that A personality. We've all worked for that person. Okay, yeah, I understand your dog died, Dave, but listen, we got to get to work. We got to finish this project. It's all about getting to work, and many people assume that they have no heart, but I've learned they do have a heart in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, when it comes time for the D to get feedback, what they don't want the fluff. They don't want somebody to come in there, listen, Dave, you got this, you got that. Just give it to me. Just give it to me. I don't have time for all this fluff. Give it to me. And then I'll fix it. And then they get it. They get it. So now it's time for that D to give feedback to an S. Remember, DISC. S is a very steady person. Now I'm giving some general characteristics here. S is a steady person. They like everybody to get along with each other. If you find the S person in your group, they're the ones that are saying, "Hey, everybody, group hug." That's the S. So the D has to give feedback to the S. The D goes in there with that same, that same energy that they want when they get the feedback. Well, you can imagine what's happening to that S personality. That S is now underneath the desk. It's a lot. And if people don't understand the dynamics between different communication styles internally, externally, it's definitely going to cause conflict. It caused conflict with me and with my leaders. My leader was a high D. My leader would come in and say, "Here, David, here's your project. Have a nice day." And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I got a gazillion questions I need to ask. I'm a high C. I got to ask you a lot of questions. I got to see it. I got to feel it. I got to understand it. That what's going on here? Why are we doing it? All this stuff. And he comes back at me. He says, "It's all right there. What are you, stupid?" That's what happens.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff, David. Hey, as we round third base and start heading toward home, we've got this rapid fire section of questions that our audience seems to really like. So here we go. I think I've got four or five this time. What's the biggest presentation mistake you see business owners, and let's extend this to the advisors to business owners, the biggest presentation mistake that you see people make?
Not preparing.
Oh, yep.
You said this
I
was
heard.
rapid fire, right? Rapid fire?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Well, let me dive a little deeper on that one. I remember years ago, back in college, people would say, "Hey, for every 1 hour of class you have per week, take 2 to 3 hours of prep time and study time, and then some type of post-class wrap-up time. Didn't have to all be 2 to 3 hours at once, but that was the ratio: 2 to 3 hours of time spent getting ready for or mentally absorbing what you've just been exposed to for every 1 hour of new information that you were exposed to. Is it a similar ratio here in the preparation?
It could be, one of the other factors that's involved with the speaking situation, what you're talking about in studying, you're just working with content. You don't have to get up and now talk about it,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So I think certainly that what you've described could be enough time to help get the content solid, but now there needs to be the time to work on the stage presence.
So it could be quite a bit more. Could be a 10-to-1 ratio.
And it also depends on where is that individual currently with their speaking skills. If it's the
Yeah.
very first time they've ever gotten up, they might need a little more time versus someone who has more experience, who's been a Toastmaster, for example, for years. Um, there's
Yeah.
still the time that's necessary to create the speech and the structure and so on. But one of the things that they have worked on is their stage presence. So they don't have to focus as much on the stage presence now that they've got that under their belt. And let me talk about Toastmasters for a minute. I've been a
Go
member of
ahead.
Toastmasters for 30 something years. And I encourage all of my clients that they got to have a place to practice. We're going to be talking about stuff that's going to cause you to use new muscles, and you got to get used to using those new muscles. One client I have, he referred to it like when he was learning to change his golf swing, that it took a while for him to get out of the old habit and get into the new habit of the golf swing. And this is the same thing. So Toastmasters is a great, safe place where you can practice on a frequent basis.
I'm going to check them out. I like that. I dropped in on a few classes years and years ago, but uh, yep, little practices, practice daily.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of communication skills, what is the most overlooked communication skill?
Listening, listening.
Okay. I think that's a consistent theme here. I like it. One thing that makes messaging instantly stronger.
One thing that makes messaging instantly stronger. Well, I'm gonna say listening, but I'm gonna give some more information around that. For example, what I just did here, I repeated the questions. Oh, what a great question! What are some of the things that can show what I forget the question now, because so you can acknowledge the question and repeat the question. So that now is creating that engagement between us. Now you know I heard you. You know I heard you correctly. If I didn't hear you correctly, and if I said it incorrectly, then you can correct me. So I that that's my answer, and I'm sticking
Yeah,
to it.
I like it. All right. What causes an audience to tune out the fastest?
Well, it makes it all about me, the speaker. It's all about me, I. It's all that. It's just me. I've done this and I've done that and I've made this money and I've been here and I've had this school. I've done this. I slept with this person. It's all that crap. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with me at all.
Yep. On the converse, what makes a speaker more trustworthy?
When they're open, when they're vulnerable, when they create
Yeah.
an opening that immediately gets my buy-in. Something is said, something is done, something is relevant to the objective of this presentation, and it immediately brings me in. I'm starting to see it, feel it, smell it, having those emotions around it. Yeah.
Now that's fantastic. Um, Hey, David, if a business owner wants to become more effective at communicating value, what's the first thing they should practice this month or this quarter? They just got to get started. Is that it? Get plugged in somewhere? Hire you, go to
Well,
Toastmasters, all the above, get ready for a full workout, use extra muscles.
well, I think first is there are many business owners that have a fear of getting up there and speaking, whether maybe they've never done it before and they just assume what it's going to do. Some may have tried it before and it didn't work and now have given up. So, what can business owners do now? I think there's a lot of things, but one is get up there. Uh, Being able to speak, to be able to speak with confidence in front of a group of people is does more for a business than any other marketing material. You're the heart and soul of the business, and if I want to do business with you, I want to trust you. I don't want a guy in the front of the room. I don't want that guy. I don't want to listen to that guy. I want to listen to the guy that can come up there and tell me as best he can. Again, I'm not expecting everybody to be professional, but at least be prepared and to display that confidence in front of a group of people.
Well said. Well said. Folks, hope you took a lot of notes. David, this has been fantastic. We have talked about the power of listening. That definitely came through. The importance of asking questions, the amazing results that happen when you practice daily on a regular basis. Where can folks get a hold of you if they want to talk with you about helping them get their communication skills
That's
improved?
I'm glad you asked, Bob. So they can go to my website, publicspeakingcoach.ai, or they can find me on LinkedIn. Look for David Doerrier. I doubt if you'll find another David Doerrier. You might find my sister, who just recently retired, in there, and my brother Mark. But if you find a second David Doerrier with the same spelling, let me know.
And for folks who are not watching but listening, David's last name is spelled Doerrier.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Exit Teams podcast. A huge thank you to my guest, David Doerrier, for sharing his insights. So if you run a company or you advise those who do, and you want to communicate even better than you already do, I suggest you reach out to David to see how he can help. If you're a business owner thinking about your next chapter, now's the time to start building your advisory team. You can learn more in my book, Exit Teams: Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price, available on Amazon. And don't forget to visit exitteams.com for free resources, tools, and insights that can help you prepare for a successful exit. Until next time, build your team, sell smart, and take control of your future.